You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Polk.
Hey, Matt.
Andy, are you an insider?
I guess I'm an insider.
Self-proclaimed.
I guess so. I'm a Beltway bandit. Some may say, since we live in D.C., right?
Yep.
We are the swamp in some ways.
We are.
In other ways, we are not.
I'm the proud representative of the shoe industry in the swamp.
Well, it's an important job.
Isn't it?
Fighting the lower trade barriers and all sorts of things. But you know what we also do is, in addition to helping lower trade barriers and fight duties, is also we do a lot of work with companies on the commercialization side.
Yeah, that's fun, man.
It is fun, and it's almost like we're a research or a think tank where we're looking at all the different changes happening.
Yeah,
and we're trying to find those threads that string everything together and try to figure out, okay, what are the common challenges where we can bring people together and look at things. One of those things over the past couple of years we've been looking at that's been extremely difficult, and it's a positive difficulty, but it's materials.
Yeah.
And as we always say, and it's kind of cliche at this point, but the shoes just don't show up on the shelf.
Nope,
someone
there's
has
no shoe fairy.
That's right. Someone has an idea. Someone sketches it out, but someone along the way has to figure out what material is going to fit with that product.
That's right.
That's quality, that has the comfort, but also has the durability, all those different standards. It's really, really tough job.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm glad to welcome Hisham Muhareb to join the show with us today. Hello, Hisham.
Hisham, what's up?
Good. Hey, how you doing, guys? Thanks for calling here.
Of course. Now, Hisham runs the Material Show, and for those who aren't familiar, some people may be more familiar with something like Fanny or Magic that are finished product.
Right.
But Hisham actually runs a Material Show where raw material vendors will show up, whether it's leather, textile, whatever it is, and they'll actually show product. And I think, and this is what I want to talk to Hisham about. Hisham, the shows that you guys create, maybe you can describe it a little bit more, who attends, how you guys connect different people. And then I know, several years ago, you guys also started not just a textile, more centric athletic show that you have in Portland, but you also started one in Boston that's more focused on leather. So maybe just describe what the Material Show is, who comes, how often it is.
Okay. Well, the show started about 25 years ago, actually, in Portland. It was a Nike idea, actually, to start with. It used to be called the Nike Vendor Fair. But then we grew that. We took that from Nike, actually, back in the early 90s and expanded on it. It used to be just a Nike exclusive show. And Nike allowed us to actually expand it and invite everyone else in the industry. It started out with about maybe 15 vendors and grew into about 300 vendors in Portland.
That's
and the Boston show is the Boston show is about 160 suppliers exhibit, and it's all about raw materials and basically, like you said, textiles, fabrics, trims, leather, synthetic leather, components of any kind that go into the manufacturing of a finished product. So basically, who comes to the show are the raw materials and component suppliers exhibiting to, and trying to sell their products to the designers and product developers, materials managers at these big, small, and medium-sized brands. And our show has been focused mainly on the athletic and outdoor industry, but we have attracted other industries as well, like the automotive industry, the high-tech industry, and others. And even medical. They come and source materials, upholstery as well. Not as many, of course, for upholstery, but we do have a lot of different companies that do come out and look for new and exciting materials.
Right.
And the shows happen twice a year. So every spring and summer, they do happen around the time of February and August shows, and we usually do them back to back, where we'd have a Portland show and then Boston, or vice versa.
Great. And it's been described to me from people in the industry on one side, you have the developers going around trying to figure out, one, they're talking to their current suppliers about what they're doing that's new, but maybe they're looking for new folks as well. And then the other side is really kind of an inspiration show where these designers show up and see and get to feel and touch and talk to suppliers about the materials, and it helps them think about the next big innovative thing that they're trying to create.
Definitely. I mean, that is a huge part of the show. They are coming out, they come out to meet with the suppliers that they currently have and look for new materials that from our new vendors that we bring. Or even the current suppliers, they're definitely challenged. Every 6 months, they have to come up with something new and exciting, innovative, and they can, keep the palette fresh, if you will. Yeah. And in addition to all of that, I mean, definitely the show has become also a networking event. Right. People that are, just are looking to hire others or to just connect with old colleagues or new people in the industry, as well as just to touch base and stay in touch with everyone. So it has become kind of a networking as well as also, about products and so forth. So anyone, the designers and the product developers or the materials managers, especially the designers, like you said earlier, they do have a sketch and they want to, go out there and see. It is now early enough for them to basically pick materials to sample and send it off to the factories or take it in-house and make, a product, a shoe or a garment or an accessory. And then that's when they start the sampling process, and that's where it all starts, basically. It just the kind of the infancy stage of where you'd see it at the end of the day, or the next season or the next few seasons on the shelves.
Right.
Yeah, Hisham, I can speak personally to the reach that your show has. We have a number of our members based in Portland, and every year we do an event in August, and I happen to run into a guy named Joel Lacroix, who's French, who works for a Chinese supplier in China. And the only time I ever see him is in China, and there he was on the streets of Portland. He was there for your show. So I can speak to that personally, that it is a networking opportunity. It is an ability to get to know people and to interact with customers and potential customers. And so I can assure you that that's happening. What my question for you is, how did you get, we know about the show now, which is really cool. So many things start from Nike in Portland. It's just such a creative powerhouse. It spins off all these really neat things. It has its own kind of ecosystem that feeds off of it. Yes. But how did you get involved with the show and shoes and all that? What's your shoe story, if you will?
Well, actually, I came to the States. I was born in the Middle East. Actually, I was born in Palestine and moved to Jordan, lived there for about 12 years, graduated from high school, and my dream was to come to America, actually. Cool. Since I was a little boy.
That's great.
Yeah, watched all those American shows in black and white, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Seas, to Hawaii Five-0 and Kojak. Those names, to some people, they don't even know. My kids, I know, they don't know anything about those shows. But that was kind of my dream. And then so I made it to the States in 1978. I went to Fresno, California, of all places. Didn't like it. Moved up to Oregon, and a few months later, and lived here ever since. And in the early 80s, I really honestly was broke. I couldn't finish my, engineering degree. Right. And so I just said, what the heck, I'm just going to go find me a job. And I was lucky enough that my sister-in-law worked for Nike at the time. And she asked me if I would like a summer job at Nike in the warehouse. And sure enough, I accepted that and worked as a temp for a few months. And Nike picked out a few of about a dozen of the temporary workers, and I was one of them, lucky enough. Worked in the warehouse for a few years. Then my boss's boss, noticed that I was a hard worker, and he asked me, he looked at my resume, and he said, well, we don't need any civil engineers, but if you switch over to business, Nike will pay for it.
Wow.
And I said, oh, my gosh, this is just a blessing in disguise. I just couldn't believe it. I was lucky. So anyway, I went back to school, got my degree in business, and Nike, of course, after that, I was looking for a job here and there, and I was lucky again to get a job in materials. I was a materials manager at Nike in footwear, and that was when I discovered that the Nike vendor fair was a good, awesome opportunity to pursue. So I approached Nike, and Nike was generous enough to say, okay, if you can keep the two separate, you can have the Nike vendor fair and expand on it.
Wow.
And after that, maybe a couple shows after I took it over, I definitely couldn't take the heat, if you will, from being an event organizer, and I have clients that are exhibitors, and Nike suppliers. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. So I got out of that department, went into Nike equipment, which was kind of new to Nike at the time. Became an operations manager, then a category line manager for hockey, and once I got my feet on solid ground, I said, okay, thank you very much, Nike. I need to leave now. And I resigned. So it's been a little over 20 some odd years since I left Nike. And the show grew from there. So I think about 13 years ago, that's when we decided to go to the East Coast and start another show there. Of course, it was the demand from the brands on the East Coast that they were saying, okay, we're traveling across the U.S. here to come to your show. Can you take this to our area? There are so many brands, from Stride Ride to New Balance, Reebok, and everybody else. I said, sure. And it's been a success as well. I mean, it's not as big as the Portland show, of course,
right?
But it has been, a success story and serves the athletic wear and outdoor brands on the East Coast, as well as some of the fashion from the New York area where they come up and like Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, Tory Burch, and such. So that's kind of what happened, and this has been a great ride, and we're continuing to meet and collaborate with new people. I mean, FDRA was definitely a great organization now to be introduced to, and working with Andy and Chris on other projects. It's been great, exciting. Basically, a shot in the arm for both shows.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. It's fun working with Andy. I speak from many years of experience. Let me ask.
It is.
Let me ask you this, Hisham. As you see the changing dynamic that is our industry, and lead times are shortening, and production is digitizing, and development is digitizing. Things that Andy and Chris and guys like Scott Labbe at Wolverine and others are focused on how they digitize the supply chain. Where do you see these shows fitting into that cadence of development that you have kind of so steadfastly stood in for 25 years? Kind of what's the next iteration of this as the supply chain changes?
Well, definitely. I mean, like what Andy and I and Chris discussed before, and a lot of trade shows are maybe kind of a little hesitant to say, okay, this is maybe a competition to them. But I look at it as a complementary, idea to business to actually add more value to the shows. A lot of people will probably be able to do their homework ahead of time better and faster and quicker. So when they get to the show, they're definitely ready to hit the ground running. I think it would help both the brands as well as the exhibitors. Everything is going digital. I mean, we don't go to the library as much as we used to. We can find everything on the internet. But if we want the hard copy, we can definitely buy it off of Amazon or go to the library and pick it up. So I think that in our business for the raw materials shows, actually, it's not going to be a problem with digitizing all of it, because at the end of the day, it's going to be still the touch and feel and see with your own eyes and your own fingers, and definitely even smell some of the leather. You'd have to really feel the material, and if you don't touch it and see it, you probably won't be able to spec it into your product. So that's not going to go away. This is just an additional value, if you will, to the process.
Yeah,
and it is going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think what Hisham is talking about is the new material exchange FDRA has been working on with PTC and Substance and some others in the industry. A collaboration of brands looking at how you digitize materials and communications in that way to speed up supplier and brand communication and helping find the right materials. But I think Hisham's exactly right. As we develop a platform for brands and suppliers to better find each other and communicate, it doesn't replace the material shows. I think it may even make the material shows even more important, and function even at a higher level, as Hisham said, because the designers absolutely still need to go out and feel and touch and think and conceptualize. I mean, when I think of it, I think a lot of when people read tablets, I think in a certain way, humans psychologically, they may read it, but it may not sink in as well as if you read something in print that you can actually feel and touch, right?
Yeah, it's good
I think,
analogy.
Yeah, and I think it's the same way with materials with these designers and developers. You can see it on the screen, and you can pull it into a platform where you're designing something, and you can overlay it and look at it and say, that looks really good. But at the end of the day, you still need the sample piece to feel it and say, okay, when the consumer touches this, is it going to give them exactly what I'm looking for? And are we hitting the right target with that? I mean, the digitization process helps speed everything up, and it can allow you to try things quicker and fail cheap and easy.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, if you tried to sample it and, you have these long timelines and costs and things like that. But I think material shows, from the standpoint of inspiration, feeling things, and it's still a face-to-face business at the end of the day. So you can find someone, it's the same thing. You can find someone on the internet that can say they can have it, but until you have that face-to-face meeting and actually get to know that individual, you're not quite sure. And actually, I'll say the same. Hisham and I had that same thing when we were out in Hong Kong, and we had talked over the phone about what's happening with materials and how he can help FDRA and help the industry, and we can help him as well and find these collaborations. And we both agreed, and we were all saying the same things, but until you can sit down face to face and have that conversation, really get to know that person and find that connection. Yeah. I don't know, Hisham, am I hitting all the right notes on that?
You are hitting the right notes there, because honestly, you cannot replace the human touch there. I mean, definitely if we see each other with our eyes tell a big story, I mean, we could talk on the phone all we want, and unless we meet face to face, we can't really judge it. We can't judge it. I mean, even a dating app, people still have to meet in person.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere unless they meet. So I think it's the same thing with any industry. And I don't think that digitizing of materials and putting everything kind of in a library, of a digital library for our industry, it's going to have to happen sooner or later. So I think it's either, you join the pioneers or you'll miss the boat, basically.
Yeah.
And that's the thought that I have with that regard.
Yeah, and I think it's great because, it's one of these things as we're building this digital platform, the material exchange, and we'll talk more about this, and we'll inform the industry more as we get to beta mode and launch it out, but it's going to change how everybody interacts with each other on materials. But rather than I think the whole industry is about collaboration, and so we're collaborating with the material show and figuring out how we partner with them to find that perfect nexus of physical and digital to make it work so it actually fits the industry to a T, because there's a right mix there. And we're excited to have Hisham as one of our advisors on to help inform us.
Yeah, it's
because
awesome.
Hisham obviously knows everyone in the industry and in terms of design.
Not everyone.
That is true. And the raw material supplier. So he's uniquely qualified, having done this for many, many years, of listening to all the conversations and hearing what's happening. And maybe Hisham, maybe another good question for you is, because you talk to so many people and you get to hear so many conversations, what is happening right now with materials? What are some of the biggest challenges, and what are some of the biggest kind of advances that people are talking about and are really excited about right now? What are you hearing or seeing that you're really excited about?
Honestly, it's still sustainability is still the biggest buzzword, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, people are definitely, we're definitely looking at sustainable materials and sustainable processes. We are not, Nike or Adidas or the smaller brands, they are just definitely not going away from that particular buzzword, if you will. They're all looking at how we can make our world better,
Right.
in terms of manufacturing materials, to using materials, to reusing materials, or recycling materials.
Right.
So I think sustainability is the big issue, and it's still a hot topic. We're definitely looking, Nike came out with something really cool and new. I just was reading about it today. I didn't really read the whole article before you guys called, but it's called Fly. Let me see here what it was, but it is worth mentioning. I will have to see it here. It's called What is Nike Fly Print? And I don't know if you read it or not, but I shared it on my LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter there. But it is an incredible idea, as Nike's always shared their new and innovative technology. Of course,
Right.
after they do it themselves and have some sort of a head start on
Right,
it. But
right.
it is incredible. That's what our vendors actually are coming back with every 6 months. They do introduce new processes, new materials, new ideas, collaborations with these brands, and then you see it. You see it on the news, and then you see it on the product in a year and a half. But the other thing is also is how quickly they can get the product to market now.
Right.
Everything is just instant gratification. People used to think in the athletic wear industry, we're used to maybe 12 to 18 months before we see a product on the shelf. Now everybody is want to get that product within 3 to 9 months right on the shelf. So there is a lot of pressure that's going on right now on our suppliers to have materials ready to produce or on the shelf for these brands to bring product to market as soon as possible. And I think they learned that from the fashion industry, because the fashion industry has been that way for many, many years. So I think speed to market is one and sustainability is the other.
Yeah. I'm looking at this fly print, and that checks both those boxes, Hisham. It's both quick to the consumer and it's sustainable. And I don't know how far away it's from being commercialized, but it's really you're on I always tell people who aren't familiar with the shoe industry how much innovation goes into a pair of shoes and how amazing it is. And I just feel like we're in a renaissance period for material development, upper materials in particular, and the knit upper stuff that everyone loves right now is just the beginning.
Right.
It's just the sky's the limit. It's got to be really exciting to be where you are sitting, kind of having been in the past, having kind of gone. You've been with Nike. We've been associated with Nike for many years. Nike's not that old. It's 41, 42 years old, whatever it is. And here you are,
It's been about 34 years for me, 35 years.
Yeah, so you've been there from the leather upper Cortez all the way to the fly print. You got to be kidding me, right? It's unbelievable.
It has been. It has been. I was there when they signed Michael Jordan on, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
I picked and shipped his shoes before, so it was pretty cool.
I'm sure at the time you're
cool
like,
to see it come this far.
Who's this Michael guy? And now that's what they used to say about Hisham. Who's this Hisham guy? And now everybody knows him.
Well, I was just hiding right there in the warehouse. Some Nike Jordans there back then, yeah.
And I did. So as we start to wrap things up just a little bit, the Northwest Material Show is taking place August 15th and 16th. In Portland,
we
Oregon.
will be there too.
Yep. And the Northeast Material Show is taking place August 22nd and 23rd in Wilmington, Massachusetts. And one as we start to wrap things up, it's the crazy thing about this industry that you run into people like Hisham that have such a great history and a great story and have really added value to the industry. And many people may not even know that there's a material show taking place, but for anybody and everybody in the industry that designs or develops, they know about these shows, they attend these shows, and it's the starting point by which we see the next great product come out to shelf. Starts at these shows. So if you're out there making shoes, thinking about designing shoes, whatever it is, I know that Hisham will welcome you with open arms to any one of his shows. So get out and see those.
We'll post links to the shows in the comments.
But you merely have to Google Material Show and it will come up first thing.
Boom.
That's how important and how
exactly. AmericanEvents.com is actually the actual website. But if you go ahead.
No. I'm just saying, and we're excited to have the Material Show as a new FDRA member because we're going to work more closely with Hisham to focus on material needs, especially from the material supplier side, hearing their concerns and working with them as we look at sustainability and speed to market, because it's such a tough environment right now on that end. People think the retail market is tough, and it is, but it's equally tough at the front end of our process. And so we'll be working with Hisham on material exchange, digitizing different things, but also looking to how he can help inform us on our events, like our material summit that we do, where we take deep dive into the technical aspects of materials and who we can have come in and help some of these designers and developers become more educated about the process so that they can actually develop it more quickly and more accurately and have better communication with those suppliers. So we help everybody out. So Hisham, thank you for what you've done to create and grow and empower this material show that helps the industry. Congratulations. We're happy to be working with you on a lot of different projects now, and know that you're going to continue to have a great success in helping connect these suppliers and these brands together.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Matt and Jasmine. I appreciate the opportunity here to be interviewed by you guys. And, looking forward to working with all of you. Yeah,
and so hang on just a minute before you hop off, Hisham. We are going to be doing our world-famous Fashion, Footwear, and Focus segment with Jasmine, who educates us and keeps us updated on fashion issues. So, Jasmine, tell us what's going on out there, and then maybe Hisham can chime in on what he thinks about what you're saying.
Okay, so what I found really interesting, everyone knows when Allbirds came out, it was like really popular. The shoes were made out of wool and everybody wanted a pair. But now they have a new version that are made out of trees, tree pulp fibers, which is interesting, but everybody seems to still love them. The first pair, they're deemed as the most comfortable shoe. So these ones are kind of making the second place. Everybody says that they're super stretchy. The materials on them are soft. They're super lightweight. So I guess you can kind of trade in for now as we're getting to the spring and summer months, the tree versions of the Allbirds shoes. And they're also like super breathable and like I said, lightweight. So I think everybody will gravitate towards those through the spring and summer months. And I just think it's really interesting because when you read like they're made out of trees, you're like, what are you talking about? But once you see them, you're like, okay, this is possible.
Yeah, Hisham, what do you think about all these new sustainable materials coming out that people are now actually being able to use?
Well, that is just definitely been around for a long time, but I think they're perfecting the process. They're looking for something from our earth back to our earth. Hemp has been around for a long time as well. So I think this is just a definitely progression in the right direction. So it's really progress and it's very exciting. Yeah, we're all excited about this. Again, sustainability is number one still.
And I think
that's good news, Jasmine. I like what you're bringing up here.
Oh, Jasmine, check mark. There you go. Good job. I also just saw in the same vein, Adidas in 2017 sold 1 million pairs of recycled ocean waste, so like plastics in the ocean. They took in recycled plastics from the ocean and actually made like a Flyknit version, plastic upper version of shoes, and so it's really people around the world are really responding to the sustainability idea and product. So it's just not it's not a buzzword. As a lot of people have thought over the past couple days. It's not a fad. It's a real movement that's taking place. and will keep taking place.
Well, I'm excited because we just confirmed that Joey Zillwinger, who's one of the founders of Allbirds, will be a keynote speaker at our sourcing summit in New York in late July, talking about this very development. So, so stay tuned for more information on that as well.
Great.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah.
Hisham, thank you so much again.
Thanks, Hisham.
Just Google Material Show
Thanks,
to
Matt,
take a look.
Thanks, Jasmine and Blake. We appreciate that and look forward to meeting you guys soon.
Great. Thanks, Hisham. And folks, as always, this is Shoe and Show. You can find us on the internet, shoeandshow.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We are trying to connect the industry. We're trying to enhance conversations. We're trying to help people connect and collaborate in new, powerful, dynamic ways. If you have thoughts or ideas on topics, if you yourself would like to be a guest, just tweet at us. You can hit us up on Facebook again. You can email us through our website. We're happy to talk with you and try to have some more of these interesting, dynamic conversations about shoes, from the design, the development, all the way to the production and retail sales and everything in between. Until next time, this is Andy for Jasmine and Matt. Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.